Boiling a pig. Agnes had to empty half the cupboard, kneeling on the cold, hard quarry tiles Trevor had insisted on installing, knowing her joints would play up terrible by morning. In the furthest corner was her big old pressure cooker, abandoned since the children had grown older. Left home, never visited, that was all the fault of Trevor. She opened her favourite recipe book, passed down from her mother who taught her how to cook, turned through the well-thumbed pages to look in the meat section for ways of cooking pork. Boiling a pig's head. Agnes nodded, glad to be alone, to follow the instructions without fear of interruptions. Later, as the pressure cooker simmered on the stove, she watched as strange thoughts wove around her head about pressure, how it builds up underneath the lid, how without a safety valve to let off steam, or irritation, anger, a pan or person might explode, blow up, fly off the handle. Of course, that analogy would not apply to Trevor. Always in control, so calm, certain of his cleverness, he never lost his temper. Though it must be said, his constant need to nitpick, lecture and correct annoyed the heck out of everybody Trevor ever met. Agnes had told Trevor she was making stew, and he'd replied with a condescending smile, "Well, my dear, are you? If it's going in the oven in that dish, as I rather think it is, then it's a casserole you're making. You'd use a saucepan on the stove to make a stew. Honestly, I really thought you knew." It was at this point that Agnes felt a sort of twitch that began around her eye and face, then raced down to the hand that held the frying pan she was about to use to brown the meat. She launched the pan at Trevor, caught him on the sweet spot on his temple. It's true to say he never knew what hit him. It is also true to say that it was 40 years of bitterness. Agnes calmly, patiently awaited while the pressure cooker cooled, the steam abated, then lifted off the lid and, removing Trevor's head, put it in a colander to drain. Considered butchering the body further, then decided that she'd rather go to bed, admitting that the day's events had caused her not a small amount of strain. "Tomorrow I shall cut you up, my dear, and cook the rest of you. Now tell me, do you want to be a casserole, or would you rather be a stew?" Disclaimer: this poet does not condone or endorse the cutting up and cooking of spouses, however irritating. In fact, I am slightly uneasy about Agnes. I know it's obviously light-hearted, bit of fun, tongue-in-cheek, but I do take the subject of violence in relationships really seriously. So to redress the balance, the next one that I'm going to do is a poem. It's one of 3 that are in my pamphlet published by Poets, Prattlers and Pandemonialists, and it takes the subject very seriously. This is Red Mist. "I just saw red," he said, though in truth she never wore that colour. "Makes you look like a whore," he'd tell her, nor did she ever dare to wear red lipstick, bright red nail polish. "Dirty fucking tarty rubbish," he said. The red mist descended. He kissed her with his fists. It ended with her broken body weeping, red life seeping through the bedding, blending new stains with the old. She was asking for it, he told the judge. Brought it on herself. And the judge was sympathetic, tempering his sentencing in the light of his experience. He knew all about the red mist. And the judge's wife knew too. So I'm Jane James, like it says on the book, and I'm from Wolverhampton. But before I was from Wolverhampton, I was from around here. In fact, being back in this theatre is rather strange because I was caretaker and occasional duty manager here almost 25 years ago. And I don't have a poem about Rugeley, or Rugeley, as we always called it, but I do have a poem about somewhere that's about a mile down the road. This is the bus to Brereton. Right there, on the front of the bus, the orange dots, bright and clear, spelled Brereton, the village I was born and raised in. I could hardly believe my eyes. My life, you see, it bifurcates. A gypsy told me that it would. Your lifeline's cut in two, she said. 2 halves, 2 lives. And in a sense, it's true. This latter phase, this second stage, has seen me placed in a city's busy heart. Not too far in miles, but it feels so far from where I started. Rarely do the two worlds meet. Now, right here, on a Wolverhampton street, a bus to Brereton. I stepped aboard. How much to go to Brereton? There's a house there with a holly hedge, roses by the score, a massive vegetable patch. He's a brilliant gardener, my dad. Mum's off on her bike somewhere or in the kitchen making jam. Blackcurrant probably. And I bet there's cake, blancmange and jelly for a special Sunday tea. Children play out in the street, and Mrs. Brown leans out the bedroom window yelling, "Julie!" because Julie Brown is always going off. She might be by the little row of shops where wooden railings make a balance beam, a magnet for us kids to see just how far we can go and still stay on, knowing if we fall it'll be Germaline, Elastoplast and a telling off from Mom. Oh, it might be school day. I don't want to be late. The teachers would be cross, and I'd hate that. I'm a sort of teacher's pet, you see. Though I still feel awkward, out of place somehow. Oh, now, do you stop at the main road opposite the library? That's where I feel most happy. There's a round wooden contraption where Miss Smith, the librarian, keeps all the little cardboard tickets, and she lets me help stamping things and sorting stuff, and the minutes turn to hours, and Mum says, "You're always down that library, you devour books," but I think that makes her proud of me. I do play with the other kids sometimes, though, collecting conkers on the village green. The driver raised his hand to stop me. "Hold on, love. I see the problem. You know I go there every day. I've never seen that library. There's houses where the little school once was, and just don't ask about the village green. I'm sorry. This is just a bus. To get to where you want to go, you really need a time machine." So, my dad was a brilliant gardener, and so was my former father-in-law, Neville James, who lived just a couple of miles away in Colton. He died at the beginning of this year, and I've got a couple of pearls of wisdom to share from him. This is according to Nev. "Roots," he said. "They go deep, deep down. No matter how deeply you dig, you'll always find roots still left in the ground," he said, referring, of course, to rhubarb. "Nothing lasts forever," he said, referring, of course, to everything else. So, R.I.P. Nev, bless you. The next poem is sort of garden related. It first appeared in this anthology. It was shortlisted for the competition that Friends of the Earth ran, celebrating 40 years, and chosen to go in this book, and it's called Don't. Barren. Nothing grows except the piles of children's toys and chairs and tables, barbecues and parasols, umbrellas that can fend off all the elements so you ignore the weather and forget about its benefits. Sterile. Any green that dares to peep between the paving slabs or stain the decking, slashed and burned or poisoned, purged, so nothing can be seen that isn't factory made and squeaky clean. Don't you dare call this a garden. Now, the next short poem was also in an anthology. It went into the Poeming Pigeon book, Do Be or Not Do Be, which is all about cannabis. It's loosely based on a true story, and it's called I Did Not Inhale. Cannabis can be smoked or eaten, the policeman told the meeting of older people, and has a quite distinctive smell, he said, so we can always tell if someone has been using it. With a certainly not suspicious look and too bright smile fixed on my lips, I pulled the corner of my scarf, took a tiny, surreptitious sniff. Loosely based on a true story. Now, in the interest of balance, as mentioned earlier, that one was light-hearted. This one isn't. It's called self-medication. The long white tablets are paracetamol. I take them to kill the pain. The round pink pills are ibuprofen. I take them to kill the pain. The colourful capsules are cocodamol. I take them to kill the pain. These tiny pills are called citalopram. I take them to kill the pain. The blue plastic bottle is full of Frosty Jack. I drink it to kill the pain. The clear glass bottle is vodka. I drink that to kill the pain. The dried green leaves are cannabis. I smoke it to kill the pain. Fine white powder is heroin. I inject it to kill the pain. With all this medication, you'd think something would work. So can anybody tell me, why does life still hurt? That was written for a regular event that we have in Wolverhampton. It was at the Arena Theatre. It's moved on to Facebook in the current circumstances. And we write to a theme that was medication. It's called Pasta, Poets and Storytellers Assemble. That's what happened when you crowdsource the name of something. And it's run by poets, prattlers and pandemonialists. Do look them up and go on the mailing list. They're fantastic. And another evening that has moved from a pub and into onto online is Word Stafford, which has gone on to Zoom. And that was also to a theme. So I've written this. I wrote this some time ago for a Word Stafford event. And I cannot remember this one. It's called Looking Wisely. Looking up is wise. How else do you observe the clouds that morph to palaces or horses' heads with flowing manes, or massed together, menacing in many more than 50 shades of grey? Bathe in the too blue to be trueness of a perfect summer sky. Watch snowfall from below, each flake a shadow of itself, as it floats past lamplight's luminescent glow. Look up through intersecting leaves of willow trees, and each and every time think, wow, this looks exactly like that William Morris wallpaper design. But looking straight ahead is wise, for modern life dictates the need to dodge pedestrians too wrapped up in mobile phones to bother where they're going, or leap aside as badly ridden bicycles speed by. Also, keep an eye out for the ever-present dangers of bumping into pillar boxes, lampposts, or those damned annoying strangers who collect for bogus charities or try to hand you flyers, or who urgently need to talk about electricity suppliers. Ditto old flames, embarrassing one-night stands, or that man from down your street who tells everyone he meets about his latest car or operation or views on politics, or please know how he'd deal with immigration. Now, looking down is wise. To check what may be underfoot. Avoid the catastrophic crunch of snail shell or the softer squish of slug. Avert the sad, untimely death of any tiny beetle, worm, or bug. If you're the superstitious sort, you may consider treading on the cracks in paving injudicious, or perhaps you're looking down just to make sure you don't trip or fall. I'm with you there. The only image I recall of learning English country dancing, circa 1963, consists entirely of a vision of grey asphalt, punctuated by a little pair of clumsy plimsolled feet. Though, looking back is not wise. Who knows what monsters lurk, what horrors follow? All your life's regrets, the disappointment, sorrow, self-doubt you thought you'd left behind you. Yes, you did, but now it's closer than you think. Just another link in the chastening chains you're dragging, each an open wound of pain, humiliation, loathing. All the fears you've ever felt are right behind you. So keep looking up, look straight ahead, look down, look anywhere you need. Just don't look back. Don't look back, please. Behind you is where nightmares breed. So, one more. I get cross sometimes. I get cross a lot. I am frequently furious. And sometimes I can be writing a poem and I'm thinking, oh, this is nice. La, la, la. An angry me turns up with a red crayon and goes, no, this is not nice. This is angry. It happens quite a lot. This is one of those. It was written when I worked for Wolverhampton Art Gallery, and I had to pull together an event to go with an exhibition about the hippie counterculture. This is Naked Ramble. Shake those flowers from your hair. They died in 1969. Take off the mouldy Afghan coat. Tie-dye t-shirt. Are you for real? Peel it off and in the bin it goes. Sandals too. Oh, vegetarian dockers, sorry. Off. And the rainbow striped hand-knitted, very organic socks. Interesting trousers. Based on jeans, but patches upon patches, as if you've been made over by a quilting bee on acid. I quite like them. No, they've got to go. No underwear. I might have known. But now you're a proper goddamn hippie. Your naked vulnerability, the authentic statement, counterculturally made. Now, You, Mr. Businessman, bankers, politicians, royal family, fake celebrities, fashion victims, take off your clothing too. Now you're all no different to me. When we tread unshod on sharp stones, our feet will bleed. And when the cold winds blow, our pimpled flesh will freeze. So pile up your possessions, precious treasures and investments. Make a bonfire. Keep us warm in the discontented winters that we all must weather. Now we really are all in this together. Thank you. So, I'm Jane James. I recommended Pandemonialists, who are the best poetry collective and promoters in the country. I am at the Jane James on Twitter. And if anyone wants to acquire copies of any of the books, my email that you can contact for that is jane.j@operamail.com. And thank you so much, Rugeley Fringe Festival, for letting me come here and spout stuff off a stage. Cheers.